Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu salamu rasulullah, assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to my discussion with my fellow expert here, Aisha Ashad, who is the founder of Noble Muslim and very passionate about encouraging Muslims to be unapologetically Muslim, especially living in the West. And today's topic of discussion is on that topic. Now, before I get Aisha to talk a little bit about herself, well, actually, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Aisha to explain a little bit about her work, why I go and put this live link in the event, because we've had to come live through a different link. So those of you listening to the recording, I'm going to be looking away while Aisha explains a little bit about what she does. So Aisha, over to you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's so nice to be with you, Catherine, and to be with all of you here today. So my two passions are Islam and personal growth. And what I help Muslims do is to feel confident of their faith, but also have the grace and the humility to navigate all the different challenges that we have today. So basically, as Muslims today, we have challenges from many different sides. We have obviously those who are hostile of our faith and of us, but then we also have challenges within our own community. Muslims sometimes discriminating against Muslims, or converts feeling like outsiders. And so given all the different types of challenges we have, we really need a very comprehensive approach to helping Muslims feel strong and confident in our current times.
Yes, very true. And you've done some recent workshops that have been quite eye-opening about particularly the challenges that some of our brothers and sisters have been experiencing even within our own community. It would be great for you to share what they said, were their challenges, and also maybe tell the audience a little bit about who the people were that you were talking to, the demographic of Muslim.
Right. So when I first started putting together my research and all my findings, I assumed that the biggest challenges that Muslims were facing today was from outside the community. So things like discrimination and Islamophobia and bullying and hate crimes and things like that. But when I did recently 2 workshops with a largely convert community, what I found was that the biggest challenges that they faced in being unapologetically Muslim were actually from within our own community. And so what I did when we talked about challenges was I said, let's list what are some of the things that you face from outside the community, and then challenges within the community and challenges within our own selves. And as we started to talk about challenges within the community, some of the things that I heard many times were the fact that people felt like they were being judged, that it was haram to ask questions about Islam, people, being judgmental about whatever phase of your journey you're at as a Muslim, people being closed-minded. Some of the things that I heard for converts in particular was that when they go to the masjid, they're either treated like a perfect, pure angel who knows everything and has no weakness, or someone who is a perpetual newbie and doesn't know anything about Islam. And so it becomes very difficult then for people who are converts to navigate this. And, converts also face challenges within their own families and their communities. So they're othered by their own community, and sometimes they're also othered by the Muslim community. And the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding, they actually studied these dynamics of, Muslims being unmosqued, and they found that the 3 groups that most often feel marginalized in our masajid are women, young people, and converts. Mm-hmm. And if you're someone who's all 3, then that just makes the challenge all more difficult.
Yeah. It's obviously become so much of a problem that we've created a term for it called unmosqued. Which,
that's right.
It's crazy when it gets to that stage that we've created our own language to describe it. It means that it's obviously become quite an issue.
Yes.
So it's really sad because we all sort of look at the outside and what's going on around us and believe that is where the biggest problem lies. But if we can't resolve our problems within our own communities, then how are we going to tackle, the bigger issue of the global rhetoric around Muslims? We need to start within, don't you agree?
Exactly. I mean, there really are, so many different types of things that Muslims are dealing with. When the Pew Research Center, when they studied Muslims who are struggling with Islam to the point where they're leaving their faith, they asked them what the biggest reasons were. And many of us, when we talk to people that are struggling with their faith, we assume that if we can just give them all the reasons why Islam is the best religion, that'll alleviate all of their doubts. But actually, the research shows that the biggest reasons people struggle actually have nothing to do with Islam in particular. They're actually misconceptions about religion and God as a whole. And even the reasons that they cite within Islam, when they say that it's the reason that they're leaving is because of Islam itself, only half of those people said that it was because of the teachings of Islam. The other half said that they simply never felt connected to the community. So really knowing this then and being armed with this research, we can develop programs that are more, specifically addressing the actual needs that are out there rather than just, telling people all the reasons why, they shouldn't be doubting their faith or having any questions.
So tell me, what do you think they need?
What I see us doing as a community for the most part is just conveying information about Islam, and I think that we definitely need that. More specifically, though, when it comes to Islamic knowledge, what I believe we need to really do is I really feel like it's time for us to flip the script, the model in terms of how we teach Islam. Rather than starting with things like the 5 pillars and, basic things like that, we really need to go behind the scenes and help people understand Islam in a foundational way, like the actual structures of Islamic knowledge. But beyond that, we also need to work on ourselves. A lot of times when we're struggling in our faith, it's because we're struggling in our lives. And so we need to equip Muslims with tools to elevate their personal lives and their professional lives as well. Beyond that, it's one thing to have knowledge of Islam, but it's another thing to be able to communicate it effectively. And in my workshops, I give the example, I ask people, how many of you have ever been in a class with a professor or a teacher who was obviously brilliant in their subject that they taught, but they couldn't teach for the life of them, right? So it's as important to be able to communicate as it is to have the knowledge in the first place. And then finally, I think that another really critical piece of this is having positive stories about our fellow Muslims, because we know that in the U.S., according to research by ISPU, about 80% of media coverage in the U.S. Of Islam and Muslims is negative. And, we can react to that in a couple of ways. We can push back, and we should push back, when it's appropriate and when it's beneficial. But if all we're ever doing is arguing with the negative stories, then we're really not getting anywhere. And they say that the best defense is a good offense. And so if we can arm ourselves with positive stories of all the wonderful ways that Muslims are contributing to society, this can go a long way towards helping alleviate some of the challenges. Because we have actually 2 parallel issues that are going on. On the one hand, there are Muslims that are having a crisis of faith, where they're questioning their beliefs, they're questioning Islam. But we also have a very large number of people who are not questioning their faith. They know that they're practicing Muslims, but they're questioning their identity. And they're having issues with, how do I practice Islam in a public way, given the skepticism of my faith and my fellow Muslims. So that's why I believe that we need to work on Islamic knowledge, but also Muslim identity and, communication strategies and critical thinking, as well as, elevating our own life. Too often, in our community, when someone has some type of difficulty, whatever that may be, we just tell them to go be patient. And we tell them that if you really believe in Allah, you won't have these problems. But the answer really is that we need to look squarely at these issues that people are having, and we need to address them, and we need to help people with that. And yes, as we grow in our faith, we lean more and more on Allah. And He is the source of all the resources, that we can approach. But that doesn't mean that we neglect to take the means that can help us. So I think that we really need this sort of comprehensive approach. And really my goal in the end is to help Muslims know that we can be proud and practicing Muslims and also be active, contributing members of society at the same time. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm really trying to help people do.
So I think a lot of Muslims feel almost like they've got a split personality, as a result of trying to figure out how they can be both, not realizing that you can be both. And I think that's where the word unapologetically Muslim comes in, doesn't it? Where you can reach that point where you feel authentic in yourself and your identity and have the confidence to just be Muslim wherever you are and whoever you're with.
Exactly. I think that really what I want to help people do is know that they can be confident of who they are and what they believe, but that doesn't have to make them arrogant or intolerant. Arrogance and intolerance actually comes from a place of insecurity. It doesn't come from a place of confidence. And I think that when we as Muslims are well functioning in our lives and confident of our faith, we have more to give the broader society. So it's really a win-win for all of us.
So you've covered a lot in there. I was picking out a few points I wanted us to expand on. Just trying to recap all the different points that you made, but it does come across that you're saying that we really need a holistic approach to the solution, that we need to be better in the way that we're teaching Islam to people, that a lot of the time it's done in a manner where it's not sinking in or reaching the heart of the person. I think maybe that is it, isn't it? That we need that Islamic knowledge to get into their heart, so that's where the confidence then comes from, to be able to feel like you can be a Muslim even in the workplace, even wherever you are, despite what is going on out there. But that also gives you the confidence with the first issue that we talked about in who you are as a Muslim, regardless whether the community accepts you or not, or whether you feel like you have a sense of community, because that love for Allah and having that knowledge in your heart means that you just realize that whatever hardship you're going through is just part of the test of this life. But if you don't even understand that concept, it can just seem like everything is a barrier or everything is hard.
Right. It really does start with taking stock of where we are at as a community and as individuals, and really trying to listen to people, listen to what they're saying that they're struggling with, and then coming up with solutions that really address all of the things. We can't afford to just give people more and more information. One of the things that I learned when I learned training and development in my graduate studies is this concept of KSAs. KSAs are knowledge, skills, and attitudes. And the idea is that in order to develop competency in any field, whether that's your job or a hobby or a sport or even your spiritual growth, in order to develop competency, you need a system that addresses all three of these things. And so that's why, the program that I've developed, I actually do address your knowledge, your skills, and your attitudes. And so it's kind of a combination of the hard facts, the research, the data, as well as the soft skills. And I think that we really need to bring both of those together in order to really help Muslims not just address the challenges and not just meet the challenges, but exceed them and thrive. That's really what I hope to see is, like I said in the beginning, I'm passionate about Islam and personal growth. So I want to see Muslims excelling in every area of their lives, being confident of their faith and also being active, contributing members of society.
Well, I agree, because at the end of the day, if we want to be part of the solution of the bigger global picture, that each and every one of us can play a role in that simply by showing up in our local community, not meaning the Muslim community, our general community, as the best possible Muslims we can be. Because if we are actually emulating the manners of the Prophet ﷺ, the manners that Islam, that's expected of us in Islam, then people are going to find that we are a contradiction to the message that they're being fed through the media. And when people see something for themselves, they're more likely to question it than hearing or reading it. When they see for their own eyes, they can't help but start to go, hang on a minute, this doesn't add up. And it's
100%.
And so the work really is down at this level with each and every individual, which is why I'm so, passionate about sharing what you're doing and what all the other sisters are doing, because each and every one of us is working in some way or another to help build that confidence in our Muslim brothers and sisters, so that we are being those role models, that we are making just that difference by going to work or going to the shopping centre, by going to our kids' school, whatever it is that we're doing, we're making a difference just by being.
And this is something that, I actually asked the people, the participants of my workshops when we talked about first, what is your vision of being unapologetically Muslim? And then what are the challenges? And I mentioned that many of them felt like the challenges within the community were the biggest challenges. And then we talked about solutions. And the thing that I heard over and over again was that we need to get out there. We need to put ourselves out there and get involved and let people just see who we are. Recently I worked for ISPU as a research member of the Muslims for American Progress study. And in this study, what we did was we interviewed Muslims across the state of Michigan who are contributing to society in a number of different ways. So whether that's through politics or the arts or philanthropy or medicine or STEM or any of these areas. And the driving idea, the main idea behind doing this project was that it was actually research that we had read that told us that the reason why people feel hostile to a culture or an ethnic community or a race or a religion is not primarily because they have rational objections to that group, but because they don't personally know anyone from that group. And so the MAP project that I did was all about introducing our fellow Americans to who we are, right? We are Americans who happen to be Muslim. And we are putting ourselves out there, getting involved. We care about our communities just as much as anyone else. And so just sharing those stories of ourselves, those very personal stories. We had quantitative data, so actual numbers, that things like, as Michigan Muslims, we contribute $5.5 billion to the economy, right? So we had the hard facts, but then we also had the stories of, Rashida Tlaib, the first Muslim American who was elected to the Michigan state legislature and who's now going to Congress. She's going to be the first Muslim woman in Congress. So sharing these personal stories, sharing the data, this goes a really long way towards alleviating a lot of the hostility that people have towards our community, and also just helping us as Muslims feel more proud of not only our faith, but our Muslim identity as well.
That's really awesome. So I was just thinking as you were speaking about, the amount of time, money and effort, for instance, my local community puts into running mosque open days and what we call the Salam Festival. But the thing that I have come to realize at those events is that most of the people that come to visit us in the mosque or come to the Salam Festival are those people who already have a good opinion of Muslims and that they're just curious to learn more. They're not the problem. They're not the ones that are causing the grief out there. And so really this is the solution, is by us being a part of society as unapologetic Muslims, but also with good knowledge, because I think sometimes when we don't have good knowledge, we might bumble the answers because we think we have to give an answer, or we might answer in a way that is not true, which obviously Islamically is something that is not good for us to be doing, but it also can add to the misconceptions of the people that meet us. So by us taking responsibility and seeking knowledge, because that is one of the requirements of us as Muslims, and it's about how we're taught the knowledge. I was really fortunate. I had a teacher that made us have to answer her quizzes back with evidence to support everything we were answering. So we actually got the opportunity in every lesson to articulate what we'd been learning, so that we had somebody who was our teacher actually hearing how we articulated it so she could correct us. And I think that actually helped me feel quite confident in talking about Islam, because for a very long time after becoming a Muslim, it was like, don't ask me a question. I know in my heart, in my head, that this how this all works, but I don't know on my tongue how to express it, right? So I think that can be one of the other things that can be a little bit daunting. It was one of the things that had me worrying about putting hijab on for the first time, because as soon as you do that as a convert, it's like an announcement, hey, I've become a Muslim. And so, of course, because everybody knew you as something else before, you're going to get bombarded with questions. And so just a little side note for anyone listening, do not pressurize Muslim women who have just converted to stick the hijab on until they're ready, because they're basically making a public announcement to the whole world that they've made this change, and they may not be ready for everybody to bombard them, because it changes all your relationships. It changes everything in your life the minute everybody knows. So, give them the time to get that grounding and feel confident. I mean, some are so confident they put it on straight away. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so having that confidence in knowledge, but also the ability to articulate it confidently, it's really important, isn't it?
Exactly. And also, like you said earlier, it's very important for us to have the proper knowledge, not only for ourselves, but also so that we can communicate it. When I first decided to name my company Noble Muslim, I had these certain qualities in mind that I wanted to convey to people. And one of those was confidence. Obviously, we need confidence to stand up to the challenges, but also confidence to invest in ourselves. But the confidence that I was going after was not a sort of invincible confidence, in the sense of we now are perfect and we can face anything all by ourselves. And that's why I like to pair that with grace and humility, because in order to thrive in our faith, we also, just as important as it is to be confident, it's also important to recognize the limits of our knowledge. It's also important to recognize when a problem is getting to be over our heads and we need to ask for help. Humility also to accept that Allah knows best, and the rules that He set for us, the commands and the prohibitions, they're not for His benefit, they're for our benefit, right? So we need this whole family of traits all together. We need confidence to stand up to the difficulties, both from the outside and from within. But we also need a good dose of humility and grace to do everything with wisdom.
Yeah, it's very good. I remember it was the same teacher who taught me, and it was very humiliating at the time, about the lesson of just saying, I don't know. And I think that was probably one of the really key turning points, two turning points in seeking knowledge. One is that the more you know you don't know. And that's where the humility comes in. But also then the ability and the courage, because it does seem to take courage to say, I don't know the answer to that, but I can find out for you. I mean, that's the best answer you can give when you don't know. Yes. So I feel very, grateful and fortunate. I've had these teachers, but not everybody out there has. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about, because you were saying about the KSAs and your program. Share a little bit about what you do in your program, just for people to understand what's out there, what's available, if they're feeling like they'd like to have that confidence and that knowledge that, that background knowledge that they need. If they're, so the KSAs was the knowledge. What was the S? The
skills.
And the A was the attitudes. So if they want the knowledge, the skills and the attitude to be out there unapologetically Muslim, I think that sounds pretty cool. share a little bit about what you do in your program to achieve that.
Sure. So after doing, lots and lots of research into all the difficulties that Muslims are facing and looking at the resources that are out there, and diving into my own learning that I did, both Islamically and also in the areas of personal and professional growth, what I've done is I've come up with a 6-week program. And this is an online coaching program where I work with you one-to-one. It's not simply giving you information, but I'm actually working together with you to help you with your own growth. So we work on 5 key areas in this program. We work on everything from, helping you take stock of your life. So I've got, 6 different areas of your life that you're going to rate where you're at right now and where you'd like to be. And we look at that, and I help you with strategies to improve your life. Then we also take a look at Islamic knowledge, but not just any knowledge. What I will leave you with in this program is actually a framework, a structure where you can understand all the different elements of Islamic knowledge. When I was studying, educational technology, we had this learning theory called constructionism, which says that in order to gain knowledge, it's not just about transmitting information. I need to have a structure in my mind where I can place the knowledge that you're giving me. So what I kind of do in that week, in week 2, is kind of create cubby holes for you in your mind, rather than you just having this big stack of papers on your desk, which if you're someone that's been just going to different classes for a long time, you've got like this big stack of papers on your desk. I kind of help you organize that and understand the overall structures of Islamic knowledge. And then in week 3, we go into communication strategies and how to communicate effectively. And really communicating effectively is all about thinking effectively. So we talk a little bit about critical thinking, and we pair that with role playing so that you can really have the wisdom to deal with different types of questions in different ways. For example, someone may ask you about hijab. They may be asking the exact same question, but depending on where they're coming from, they're actually asking a very different question. And so learning how to identify where people are coming from, reading between the lines, and then responding appropriately. And then week 4 is all about our Muslim identity. Like I said earlier, 80% of media coverage of Islam and Muslims in the US is negative. And, there's what I've seen Muslims react by just trying to pretend that they're not Muslim. I've seen Muslims react by feeling like they have to chase down every negative story and reveal how wrong it is. But I think that the third way is a lot more effective, and that is to say, why don't we substitute these negative stories with positive ones? Why don't we decide that we are going to become the catalyst for sharing positive stories of Muslim contribution? And I think that needs to be stories not just from the past, but also from the present, and not just stories of men achieving things, but women as well.
Yes.
So that's, week 4 is a bit of a celebration where we talk about all these things.
Good.
And now you can walk with your head up high because you have all these positive stories to share, with people. And week 5 is kind of a culmination where we bring all of this together. And now that you've developed the knowledge and the skills and the attitudes, you're now ready to go out into the world and make a difference. So we look at, what are some things that you're passionate about? Are you passionate about politics? Maybe campaign finance reform or gerrymandering or getting people registered to vote or supporting Muslim candidates. Maybe it's the environment, air quality or water quality or air pollution, any of these things. So whatever it is that you feel passionate about, we kind of help you discover ways that you can get involved. And this also includes ways within the Muslim community too. So whether you're concerned with civil rights or family and youth issues, or showing, accurate information about Islam and Muslims. So whatever that is, I kind of help you decide a path for yourself where you can get more involved, and also shine in your own personal and professional life. And then in week 6, what we actually do is we take all the goals that you've established for yourself up till that point, and I help you turn those goals into du'as. using the names of Allah that are most appropriate for the thing that you're asking for. So, for example, if you have a situation in your life where you're feeling really stuck with something, you've tried everything and there just doesn't seem to be any way out, you might call on Allah al-Fatah, the opener. Maybe you have a situation with someone where you realize that you need to be a little easier on this person. You've been kind of really hard on this person and you want to try to bring about a softer approach. And so maybe you call on Allah, ar-Rahman, ar-Rahim, the merciful, the compassionate, or al-Wudu, the loving, or ar-Ra'uf, the kind, right? So I help you sort of pinpoint the names of Allah that go with the things that you're asking for, and then you can turn these into regular du'as that you just make a part of your regular daily life. So really it's about pairing the hard facts and the knowledge and the data with the soft skills and the attitudes to help you be confident as a Muslim and become an active contributing member of society at the same time.
Brilliant. What a wonderful journey you take people on through those 6 weeks. And it sounds like it's such a marriage between Islamic knowledge but also personal development together. So that's brilliant. Something very special, actually. So I have put a link on the screen and a link in the description so that people can actually make an appointment with you, can't they? So they can discuss with you any challenges that they're having, or if they're interested, they can discuss with you about your program if they're interested in joining it. But you're more than happy for them to book themselves in to have a session with you free of charge around where they struggle in the West in being unapologetically Muslim, what's going on for them.
Yeah. So, if you've listened to this and any of it resonates with you, maybe there was just one part that you felt like, oh yeah, that's something that I really care about, or that's something that I'm really struggling with, or I know someone who's struggling with it and I'd like to help them with that. Book in a call with me and let's just talk. Maybe at the end you decide, yeah, I really want to be in this one-to-one program. I want to have a coach. I could, learn bits and pieces of this on my own, but working with a coach is really going to help me kind of accelerate my growth. And that's something I want to do. Or maybe you'll decide that maybe it's not for you at this time. But even then, you'll definitely leave with actionable strategies that you can use in your life right now. So there's nothing to lose. You'll definitely leave learning something. So definitely book in a call. I'd love to speak with you and go from there.
Yeah, I think anyone who's got any struggles, whether it's with a knowledge, identity, just don't feel like they're 100% being themselves when they leave their home for whatever reason. There's something going on there, isn't there? That and the good news is it can be resolved. It doesn't have to be that way, and that you're doing work with Muslims to help them reach the point where they just feel 100% themselves walking out that door of their home out into the big wide world, that they don't feel they have to wear a mask or hide or pretend, that they can just be who they are. It's very freeing, isn't it, when you can do that?
It really is. It's really all about, liberating ourselves from all these different types of shackles that we have. And I know I've said many times that, there's multiple things that we have to work on all together, but I want you to know that it doesn't have to be hard. I won't be one to tell you that there's a magic pill you can take and all your problems are going to go away. But at the same time, I don't want you to leave feeling like this is something that's impossible. In this program, we go step by step, and it's a coaching program, so it's very interactive. It's not just me talking to you, but you talking to me, and me doing a lot of listening and trying to figure out exactly where you're at in each of these things and what is going to be most effective for you to focus on. So it definitely is doable, and there is a way for you to come out on the other side of this struggle and be transformed. So I'd love to invite you to join me on that journey.
So the link is there at calendly.com/noble-muslim, and the link's in the description of this video as well as on the screen. So make sure that you book that in as soon as possible, inshallah. Look, Aisha, jazakallah khair for your time today. You obviously know your stuff so well. It just flows from your tongue, what the problems are, what the solutions are, what we need to be doing as an ummah, as individuals. It's just fantastic, and that's exactly what we need, is people out there articulating the problems, the solutions, but also offering the solutions like you are to the individuals. And, one of the things that came to my mind is that, we also need our leaders and teachers out there also, to understand these problems and solutions a little more too, so that their approach could be similar to what your approach is marrying together that personal development with the spiritual and knowledge, the spirituality knowledge that we need. So jazakallah khair for your time today. It's been brilliant.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been my pleasure.
So until next time, everyone, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Don't forget to book in that appointment with Aisha. You'll miss the boat if you don't do that soon. Assalamu alaikum.